Hi everyone, Claire Rattée here, your Conservative candidate for Skeena-Bulkley Valley. I wanted to start doing some videos again. They were really effective, I found, during the last campaign. So I'm going to try and keep them nice and short, easy to watch, but just keep everybody kind of updated. They're easy to share around, so please make sure that you share them on social media and with your family and friends. Obviously the writ dropped today, so I've been out campaigning all day, door knocking, so excuse the shirt, but I thought it was really important to make sure that I get a video out immediately. And when I was thinking about what I wanted to do the first video on, I figured it would be a really good idea to do one on something that's really important in my hometown right now of Kitimat, and that is the strike at Rio Tinto. I want to start off by saying that it's my sincere hope that both parties will get back to the table and continue negotiating, not just for the sake of the workers at Rio Tinto, but for the sake of the entire community. It's an issue that I don't think some people realize just how much of an impact it has on our entire riding. It's not just the fact that the workers at Rio Tinto are on strike, although they are definitely the most severely impacted because right now many of them are having a hard time feeding their families, keeping a roof over their heads. But it also affects the community at large and the riding at large because it goes all the way down the supply chain. It affects other small businesses like mine. It's really difficult when Rio Tinto is the largest employer in Kitimat. And what's really upsetting is hearing how many of these workers are now saying if this strike lasts much longer, they're probably going to have to move away to find meaningful employment that's going to help them to continue to feed their families and keep a roof over their heads. That's really upsetting to me, and that's a huge part of the reason why I am running to be your next member of parliament. Obviously, this strike, if government was to get involved, would be more of a provincial issue, but I think at a federal level, it's important for us to recognize that if that's the case, why don't we have more meaningful employment opportunities within our own communities here? Why is it that after nearly 2 decades of NDP representation, we rarely ever see any new employers coming into the area? We rarely ever see new projects coming into the area. I mean, we've seen plenty shut down. I can think of Hurricane, Methanex, how much the forestry industry is declining, fisheries are declining, but we rarely see anything changing for the better. It seems like our standard of living gets lower and lower, the cost of living gets higher and higher, and there's nothing that's being done about it. And that's one of the reasons that I'm so passionate about representing Skeena-Bulkley Valley. It really bothers me to think that so many people are expecting to have to leave this region to be able to find employment opportunities. There's no reason for that, and we need better representation to ensure that that doesn't happen any longer. If you look at Haida Gwaii, for example, many of the residents there whose ancestors have lived there forever are now having to leave so that they can find employment opportunities in general, or just so that they can find a better cost of living. You know, groceries are so expensive, utilities are so expensive, most of them are still reliant on diesel. Why has this not been addressed? More and more we're seeing people leaving the area and going elsewhere to look for employment, to look for a better cost of living, and it doesn't seem like the NDP or the Liberals want to do anything about it. I think that we live in one of the most beautiful places in the world. I do not understand why we don't have more to offer here. Another thing that comes along with that is the lack of investment in our communities. It's something that I'm going to be fighting for because I think we've been forgotten about by Ottawa for too long. Specifically, I'd like to talk a little bit about the lack of investment into infrastructure in our riding. One thing that really bothers me is that we still don't have safe, reliable, and affordable transportation between communities in our riding. The Highway of Tears runs through our riding, and there are still young girls and women that are going missing all the time because they're hitchhiking along this highway. The NDP loves to pay lip service to the families that are missing loved ones, especially during campaign time, and yet nothing's been done. Our current representative is the critic for infrastructure. Nothing's been done. I think that people really need to ask themselves, what has the NDP actually done for us? What have our representatives in Ottawa actually done for us? Because I haven't seen any evidence of it. Why don't we have more investment in mental health services, especially mental health and addiction services? It's a huge issue in the riding right now. I'm sure many of us have seen the spikes in addiction, and yet we don't have anybody fighting to make sure that we have more funding coming here to help with mental health and addiction services. It's something that I'm extremely passionate about. If you followed me during my last campaign, then you probably already know that I am a recovered addict of 10 years and I was homeless. So it's something that I'm really passionate about fixing in this community. I think that we need somebody that's going to advocate for that if we're going to see our communities become safer and make sure that the most vulnerable among us are taken care of. So those are a couple of the things that I'm really passionate about and I will be fighting for. And hopefully if I'm successful in becoming your next representative in Parliament, then that's something that I will be fighting for in Ottawa as well. Thanks for taking the time to watch. I really appreciate it. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions or comments. Talk to you guys soon. Thanks.